And I'm quoting Lauren Adyacic again, and will quote them more often because her body of work is just amazing and incredible what she has done. And I will get into more a little bit later. She says, one of the first things we might observe is that everyone has a different set of beliefs based upon their social and familial conditioning, and that these beliefs determine how much of the objective reality anyone is able to access. Families that are very concerned with social acceptance will frown heavily on any things that take one outside of what is socially acceptable. And that goes again back to basically the sheep controlling the sheep, how we police each other. Because, what is my neighbor going to think if I'm going to say this, or my colleagues at work, or my family, and yada yada. And I think everyone who has truly, done some truth seeking and tried to speak out about it has been ridiculed in his lives and experienced this on some level or the other. So, getting into the topic of spirituality and esoterica, because I'm focused on that a bit because I think it's very important before getting really into the conspiracy aspect, what's happening outside the world. The most important part, especially what the times we're in, is really to also focus on ourselves and really do the self-work and get rid of our own illusions and ideas of what we think about the world. Now, when we look into ancient teachings, and these are some of the teachings I've been practicing and looked into, and by no means I'm an expert in them, but it's something there's some themes I've found very fascinating, interesting, which they all have in common. So all these teachings, be it Sufism, Hermetic science, alchemy, esoteric Christianity, which has nothing to do with Catholic or the Church, Gurdjieff's work, ancient shamanism, which shamanism this day has also been very distorted. Ancient shamanism has not much to do with plant medicine like ayahuasca or peyote or anything like this. The Holy Grail from the medieval teachings, the Gnostics, Gnosticism. So what they have in common, what they said is that man is essentially asleep and in a prison, just like the movie The Matrix told us. It requires conscious efforts to escape and awaken. They all hinted at this time and age of something called something like the shift or transformation, and I'm sure many of you heard of the date 2012 in the Mayan calendar and whatnot. They talked about the necessity to discern truth from lies, reality from illusion, within and without. It's important to strive towards objective love, which is a higher awareness. They also made gave very interesting clues to our reality, which is embedded in a complex system of other realities where we're actually not the ultimate of God's creation. There are other beings, above us who also have a big influence on us. And lastly, also, they talked about fundamental difference between humans that have to do with conscience, where we're all one, yes, but we're not all the same. Now, when we look into the common New Age ideas, we'll see that it's quite contrary to what we hear nowadays, What a lot of spiritual and self-help teachings tell us that, we are God, we can do and be anything we want, just focus on what you want to happen, create your own reality, manifest your desires and wants, think positive, ignore the negative, meditate on love and peace, and which is very abstract to me. Well, how do you meditate on love and peace? I mean, you meditate, that's it. Project love and light to the leaders and so on and so forth, And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong to empower ourselves, and there's truth to all of that, There's truth to all of it, but a lot of these teachings that are out there are leaving out a big, big chunk of reality, and the devil, as always, is in the details. And anybody who has studied these ancient esoteric teachings, which I was hinting before, and can see that the New Age movement these days has really, watered down, corrupted, and distorted a lot of esoteric knowledge relating to our reality and man's true place and condition on the planet. And in fact, many of these New Age teachings that are out there steer people away from truth, more into subjectivity, into a very narcissistic, focusing on yourself and your reality and, yada yada, and don't look at the world and ignore everything else, just focus on yourself. Which is in many ways the opposite of what these more fundamental esoteric teachings have told us. So, there's truth to it all, but the devil, as always, is in the details. Henry C. writes in his essay, The Spiritual Predator, the goal of any esoteric spiritual work must be that of objectivity, first in our understanding of ourselves, and then as our filters and programs are dislodged of the world. A true esoteric teaching will therefore not only focus on know thyself, but will also provide knowledge about the reality of our reality. If one or the other of these aspects are missing from a teaching, then you can be certain that it is incomplete, and an incomplete teaching, even if through ignorance of the teacher, even if unconscious, is dangerous. And that's what we see nowadays. And, the ancient teachings that I forgot to mention have warned about it, where even the children of the light will be deceived. They warned of false prophets and false teachings, and we can see this in the New Age movement, tremendously nowadays. So out of all these New Age ideas, there's one thing I want to just cover or talk about a bit is about, do you create your own reality? And I'm sure some of you have heard about it. There's been the movie out, The Secret, and certain teachings that tell you that, just by visualizing what you want to happen, align your thoughts and emotions to a certain desired outcome, you can manifest it in your life and forth and so on, So let's examine that a little deeper, because, there's some truth to it, yes, but it's not, as simple as it's been portrayed. The one big issue you have with these very, I call them just, they're also based on quantum physics, which is very pseudo approach of quantum physics. It's more pseudoscience than any really deep understanding of it. But what a lot of these teachings don't question is, first of all, where do my desires truly come from? What do I want to manifest? We go back to the whole conditioning of humanity and how desires and our beliefs are implemented through the outside, and a lot of the desires I have are not really my desires, So what do I really want here? How can we say what we want to create if we don't know really ourselves? How do I perceive the world and myself? And also, no one lives in a vacuum. We all, our realities are intersecting with each other. There are myriads of other worlds and beings here as well who create realities as well through us in many levels. So a lot of New Age people have the idea that just by focusing on themselves and creating your own reality, they will not be affected by anything else. And this is not how it works. This is paraphrasing the what's her name? The woman who produced The Secret. What's her name? Rhonda Byrne, yeah. And she said something interesting about the tsunami that happened in 2006, that all these 500,000 people were affected by it, attracted the tsunami because of their thought forms, literally. It's just ridiculous to think that way, Well, as Boris Moravia said in Gnosis, if only we knew what illusion is, we would then know the opposite, what truth is. This truth would liberate us from slavery. Now, getting a little bit in a theory called the Enhanced Quantum Theory, EEQT. Not getting into depth too much into it, but just telling a little bit what it's about. It's a very interesting view because it makes so much sense and puts the whole idea of you create your reality in a better perspective. Here's a little excerpt from a book called The Secret History of the World by Laura Knight Yajic. What it comes down to, what the event-enhanced quantum theory shows, is that everyone who believes in an attempt to create reality that is different from what is adds to the increase of chaos and entropy. If your beliefs are contrary to the truth, no matter how strongly you believe them, you are essentially coming into conflict with how the universe views itself. And I can assure you, you ain't gonna win that contest. You are inviting destruction upon yourself and all who engage in this staring down the universe exercise with you. On the other hand, if you're able to view the universe as it views itself objectively, without blinking, and with acceptance of the reality and appropriate responses to how things really are, you then become aligned with the creative energy of the universe, and your very consciousness becomes a transducer of order energy, and your actions are consonant with what is. Your energy of observation, giving unconditionally, matched by the appropriate actions, can bring order to chaos, can create out of infinite potential. So what it's basically saying is, yes, we do create our own reality, but we need to just really come in alignment with objective reality, to see the world more objectively, look through the lies and illusions in the world, and see ourselves more objectively, look through our own deceptions and illusions and lies, and then respond accordingly and really be aligned with our true self, and bring order to chaos. And also, since humanity, we as a whole, we are literally an organ for transducing energy onto our planet. Nothing is separated. Consciousness has an effect on our world. And, we are all reflections of another. So the condition of humanity as a whole is reflected by the planet. And the suffering of humanity, the lies that humans believe, all have a profound effect on the planet. Which brings me to the metaphysical aspects of believing in lies. So, people think that ties into the whole idea of you creating your own reality, and how, as long as we really don't see ourselves in the world objectively, we're actually increasing chaos and entropy on the whole planet. We're feeding, what's happening, be it, it's sometimes even manifested in earth changes, or what's happening, in the Middle East and whatnot. Everything kind of like, as long as we don't confront objective reality, we're feeding, destruction, basically. Also, no matter how good a lie sounds or what positive effects it has, there are metaphysical repercussions that affect us all in the whole world. And as long as we believe in lies, it literally will reinforce the prison, even if the intent is well meant. And it's like the blind walking in the porcelain store, more damage is done. You see a lot of, again, I can go back to the Obama, on the political level. A lot of people, well-meaning people with a good intent, voted for Obama because he seemed like a nice guy. He had his hope and change slogan, but essentially it's based on lies and illusion and not based on objective reality. And by doing that, they actually reinforce the lies and keep themselves imprisoned and in the time loop, so to speak. Also, by believing lies or believing a lie, you essentially give up your free will. People say, I have free will, I can do whatever I want, but no, when you really believe a lie, you don't, what you do is actually you give power to the ones who have fed you and conditioned you to believe that way, and you don't really live your own truth anymore. As the Russian mystic said, man is becoming a willing slave. He no longer needs chains. He begins to grow fond of his slavery, to be proud of it, and this is the most terrible thing that can happen to a man. This is an image of an amazing website. I can only recommend it to everyone. Signs of the Times, SOTT.net, which is probably the best news site out there. And you see the quotes of George Orwell in there, and he said in his book 1984, "Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past." So what it comes down to is, yes, we create our own reality. There's truth to it, but it needs to be in the right context. First of all, really to looking through our own conditioned personality, understanding ourselves. So that's why I always emphasize self-work, true self-work, and gaining self-knowledge. Asking ourselves, what is my true aim and goal in life? What do I really want? Do my desires and beliefs reflect who I truly am? Or is it, again, just imposed to me through society and official culture? And then I think we all can relate to having conflicting desires. There are all these different eyes, different personalities that wants this thing one day and this thing the other day. And there's a different, conflict between emotions and thoughts and so on and so forth. It's about the power of intention, to really put an intention out there, but not be attached to any outcomes with having no anticipation. But also act on it, act on whatever you want to manifest in your life and not just sit around. And also a big thing what a lot of New Age, you create your own reality pushers don't really talk about is everybody has individual soul lessons. We all have, certain lessons to learn, karma to work out, a purpose and so on forth to deal with, which is different for each. So in a sense, complete free will, there's no such thing really, it's not like a free ride and you can do here whatever you want to. We're really restricted by our soul blueprint.